All right, y'all. Happy spring. We have an amazing Artivist Talk coming in. Thank you for all of those who've been checking out the series. Please remember, hit us up in the DM if you want to be added to our Decipher chat. We got an amazing guest today. She just joined the room. I'm honored to be able to call her a friend. She's a mom. The planning world has been doing a lot of support with artists like myself and so many others. And shout out to our partner Dialect, who, yeah, we got her. Yes. Thank you,
Hi.
Pam. Pam, welcome. I was just giving you some flowers. Thank you for once again just being here and taking the time out of your schedule to do this. I know amongst many things, not only are you a mother, but you are an amazing artist in my book. And some of us, you're an unsung hero because without people like you that do so much work that is behind the scenes, that is for the artist community, that is for every type of creative, I have gained so much from the sessions that we've done together. Of course, I met you through Dialect, and thank you. But a quick couple of notes on Pam that I know. Pam is a great balance of left brain and right brain energy. She brings a lot of creative energy to the world of finance and also brings a big heart for a lot of us who have traumas and issues around money, around finance, but also brings a creative expression to the knowledge that she imparts. This is going to be a very special one. In addition to that, she carries one of the highest roles, which is being a mom of two. She has been everything from a homeowner to a consultant, and the company Brunch and Budget is now expanding and growing. But once again, I'm just honored to call you a friend, Pam, and say thank you. So please drop us a little bit more on yourself that'll go on before we get started. But I'm just honored to have you here today to set off our April, and shout out to the spring equinox energy. So I appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for the years of
Oh,
support. Yeah.
thank you. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful intro. I feel like I need to cut that part out and just I'm like put it on my brag list or
We
something because
got it.
that was lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today because we have known each other for a long time and I really admire your work too. So
Mhm.
I cannot wait to just dig in. Um, As you said, I'm Pamela Capalad. I'm a certified financial planner and accredited financial counselor.
Mhm.
My husband Dialect is a hip hop educator and MC, and together we actually do hip hop and finance. So
Mhm.
I dragged him into my world. He dragged me into his world. I personally work with a lot of artists and creatives. I love working with artists and creatives in particular because the system has been telling us for as long as it possibly can that this system is not for artists. The system is not for creatives. The system is not for people of color. The system is not for activists. Like the system is designed
Mhm.
for us to not be be able to participate in it fully, and also it's designed to harm us. And
Whew.
so yeah, it is I've seen so much. I've worked with so many clients, so many artists, so many people of color who just have so much trauma around money, and I feel like that a lot of my work is learning what I can about the system, figuring out how to demystify it for people, and also helping you feel okay within your nervous system to like have to butt up against the system on a constant basis.
Mm. Wow, Pam, no, thank you for that insight. And you are someone who literally helped me navigate some of my own things around it almost a decade plus ago. So that's why I'm so excited to have you. Over here at Creative Expressions, we use the term artivism, which has been a hybrid word that came around civil rights era of art and activism, right? At Creative Expression, we say activism is activating our organism to its highest
Hmm.
potential so that we can use creativity, whether that is through finance, through painting, drawing. Some people are nice with the emails and the spreadsheet. We believe everyone is an artist, and in activating our organism, we can then fill our cups till they overflow to reach that natural state of abundance. But I want to ask you, Pam, what is artivism to you? I do consider you an artist in the work that you do, you know, because it is a form of creativity, and especially the way you go about it to me is no different than the way a painter would set up the palettes with the colors and the canvas. So tell us what artivism means to you, and I will take it from there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love your definition. That's beautiful. And it just feels like you can connect with yourself inside and also as part of the collective. And I think that's a huge
Hmm.
part of what artivism is for me, is there's this collective acknowledgement and understanding of our creativity and the fact that creativity is what leads to movements, right? And what leads to change.
Mm.
And so
Woo.
that for me, when it comes to activism and art coming together, is you can't have activism without artists. You can't have activism without creativity, because the reality is, if you think about the financial system, it's dumb, it's stupid, it's not creative. It's like, what is the most easy and quickest way to like screw people over, right?
Mm.
You know? And so the thing that it does is it beats the creativity out of us. So we feel like, one, our creativity is not valuable, right? Our creativity is not valuable unless it's part of like creating productivity for capitalism. But
Mm.
the reality is our creativity, that inherent value that's in us that the system tells us doesn't mean anything, that's
Hmm.
what's going to, when we collectively can access that, that's what's going to create movement and revolution.
Mm. Pam, you're dropping gems. I'm gonna have to put up the gem. That is huge. Now, I want to veggie back off of that question, right? And say currency is also, by definition, the flow of energy. It is beyond just money, right? And a big thing I learned from doing work with you and taking some of the amazing workshops from you in dialect is how to flow naturally with the ebbs and flows, right? You talk a lot about the highs and lows in the work. And I want you to just let us know about, like, you know, a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of artists, a lot of people come from certain backgrounds, people of color, women, you know, there's a lot of this angst around it. But, you know, and in what I've gathered from some of your work in the podcast and the amazing things you do is to really look at it as energy, and how does this energy flow. So just want you to like tap in on the word currency, because it's
Yeah.
so much bigger than just finances, right? It is this deep energetic connection, because we are all part of that give and receive. So please break down that currency word, and what does it mean to you, and how does this connect to our beings. And it is a spiritual essence, I see.
Yeah,
It's not just, yeah,
absolutely.
money.
Well,
Hmm.
and the thing about money, and Dialect and I have been talking about this um, with each other for a while now and starting to share it with folks, is money is not natural.
Mm.
Money is unnatural, and we treat it like it's something that we should just inherently understand. We made
Mm.
all that shit up. Money is fake. Money is something that we all agree that we're going to abide by these rules to exchange money for goods and services. But it is actually, even though we call it currency, and that's what's so interesting about language and how
Hmm.
things can be co opted, is even though money is, they want us to believe that it's natural, it's something that actually can stop the flow of energy, right?
Mm.
It's something that, because it has gotten in so many people's ways, because it has stopped so many people from having access to resources, to education, to healthcare, that the the energy exchange that was money was supposed to represent when it originally was
Hmm.
created has been so convoluted and manipulated to a way where
Mm.
we have to figure out how we can be in flow with these things despite how people treat money now. And I think when it comes to currency, and when it comes to really letting the energy flow, money can stop that from happening, because
Mm.
there's so much around our own stories around money. There's so much around, our family history. There's so much genetic memory around money and how it's hurt our families and our ancestors and things like that. And so I think when you think about money, um, figuring out where you feel it in your body, and figuring out
Mm.
where the pain points are, like literally in your body. Like when I think about money, my chest tightens, and it's something that I have been, when I get really stressed and like money stress comes through and I feel it in my chest, I like when I have the like wherewithal, I take a moment to say, okay, that's what's happening right now. Let me feel this feeling. Let me get through it. And I think that's where you can find the flow with money, is acknowledging the fact that money has hurt us. Money has hurt all of us in one way or another. And that's why all of us have kind of a messed up relationship with it. So when we can figure out what the energy is within this like fucked up system, then I think that's where you can really find that like that connection to the currency of it.
Mm. Bars, Pam, bars. No, I really want to say how much this means, because unless we face it, right? And then look at it for what it is and take that moment to be like, I love how you said, I look at where this is in my body. I analyze that. I'm able to address that and move through with it, right? I also know you guys have done some great work around archetypes and patterns. You kind of tapped into it a little bit in your last response about how we are conditioned to have certain ways, whether that is through our family, societal conditionings. I want you to expand on that a little bit of
Oh, yeah.
how these predetermined, almost since birth ways, we're like, this is just the way it is. These fixed mindsets get hardened in us, and we're just like create these almost traumas around it. Because I know y'all work really helped me throw some water on the clay and get it loose again and start making it malleable, and allowed me to step into my own power within this. So please take us further on how these conditions get put into us and how we could kind of demystify the process. Because I think a lot of your work is not only educating us, but helping us unlearn some traits that have been instilled into us, whether it's through society, parents, past experiences.
Yeah.
And I know that once you can unlock it, you start to open up a door to navigate to that natural state of abundance, which is
Yeah.
accessible to us.
Ooh, I love that. What a great question. Yeah, I think what you're referring to is our money personalities. So
Yeah.
we have a money personality quiz. If you want to check it out and figure out your money personalities, you can go to brunchandbudget.com/personality. But in recent years, we actually took it to a deeper level. So take the quiz. But we have been studying interpersonal neurobiology for practitioners of color over the last couple years, and that's really where we've used that as a foundation for how to really address these money stories and money trauma that shows up for people. And our money personalities, it's like kind of a fun little quiz where you figure out like your tendencies around money, and you get to see like, hey, I'm not the only one who does this thing that I thought was crazy about money, right? you know and so there's 4 money personalities, but what we've really uncovered when learning the interpersonal neurobiology aspect of it, and interpersonal neurobiology, just to backtrack a little bit, is the study of how we hurt or how we get hurt and how we heal within relationships. So it's all about our relationships with other people. Our relationship with money is just an extension of our relationship with other people, right? Yeah. It is. Money is just a representative. And so the money personality quiz gives you an idea of your tendencies around money. And when we took it a step further, we realized it was an adaptation to the traumas that you have to deal with around money. So there's this concept in interpersonal neurobiology. Shout out to our interpersonal neurobiology teachers. Huge thank you to them. They wish to remain anonymous, but we couldn't be doing this work without them. So I always want to acknowledge them. But one of the things that they talk about is this a disorder or is this an adaptation, right? And when we think about our money tendencies, how many times have you said to yourself, oh God, I made this financial mistake. Oh, I'm just bad at money. Oh, I'll never figure this out. Oh my gosh, this is all terrible, right? Like I'm just bad at money. And if I was just better at it, if there wasn't something wrong with me, then I'd figure it out, right? And that's a disorder. It's something that you feel like you have to fix. Like like the way you deal with money is something you have to figure out, you have to fix. But actually, the way that you deal with money is an adaptation. And it's not something you have to fix. It's your body actually saying, hey, this thing called money has harmed us in the past, and I am going to protect you from it. Whatever that ends up looking like, whether you become hyper vigilant and you watch every dollar, Or you say, you know what, YOLO, like this thing has hurt me, so I'm gonna hurt it back, right?
Mm,
Or you say, oh, I'm just gonna overspend because, you know, when like one of the things that we talk about is like if you have a history of not having enough money in your family and having promises broken because of money, even when you have a lot of money as an adult, the default is going to be, well, let me spend it on myself before someone else takes it away from me, right? That's an adaptation that your body has done for you to protect you against the harm that you've had in the past. And so our money tendencies have nothing to do with like, I have to fix this, I'm bad at it, let me be good at it. It has to do with your body actually being very wise and very smart and wanting to protect you. And once you realize that that's what that adaptation is, and you can forgive yourself and give yourself permission to really unravel those feelings around it, then the adaptation can actually shift into behaviors that support you and support you financially, support your nervous system, and also support your finances.
mm. Wow, Pam. I'm taking a moment just to meditate on that one. That's so deep as the extension, just to recap a little bit, the extension of our own flow and our relationship with ourselves is shown within here. I know a lot of times we segregate or compartmentalize these things, but they are all part of like different rooms, but in one total house. I'm hearing a lot of the evolution about you diving into the mindset around this. And I know that these things change, right? I remember when you guys first bought the house and these things go, and we have seasons, right? And it's never, you know, a lot of us, we look for that moment. We're like, is this going to end? But it's always that ebb and flow, right? I want you to expand a little bit about navigating. I know when we all went through the pandemic era, a lot of us had to change the way that we worked, change the way that we communicated. We got into remote working. We got into certain things that are always evolving, right? And this is not a thing that just stays stagnant. It's in a constant state of motion and flux and flow, right? And I want you to speak about navigating through these things. Sometimes it's when, like you said, times were good, you're making great bread, things are happening, and you might need to make some investments, or when, you know, you got to tighten up that belt a little. I know you guys had another child and had to make some adjustments. And even though you had the home, you had to make moves and changes. And like, no one is exempt from this, no matter how little or how
Yeah,
much
true.
money you make. And I know on one side it looks like when I just get over there, the grass is going to be greener, but it's a constant relationship, just like a marriage or a friendship, where you have to keep on
What it
tending to this garden.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So please talk
Um,
to us about that
yeah.
navigation and you know, how it flows.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we only have one child. We did not have another child
Ah,
yet.
oh,
But a
I'm
lot of
out here.
people having babies around here,
Yeah.
so I totally get it. But
Yes.
we're thinking about having another one, and that's
Mm,
money is obviously a big part of the conversation
factor.
around whether or not we're gonna have another one, right?
Mhm.
And I think I'm glad you brought up the ebbs and flows, because I think that the other thing about money and personal finance that's so insidious is this idea that you hit a goal and that's it, right? Oh, I hit my savings goal. I finally have $20,000 in there, $50,000 in there, whatever it is, or I'm trying to get to that next number. And I think what ends up happening is when you have a financial setback, when you have to dip into your savings, which let me just say right now, that is what saving is for, right? Saving is not for you to look at your bank account and be like, good job, me. Saving is for when you have those ebbs and flows, that you have the ability to say, oh my gosh, I took care of my future self. Let me dip into that savings account, right? Let me dip into that money that I save for myself for situations like this. And sometimes you dip into your savings for fun stuff, and sometimes you dip into your savings for emergencies. And that's what it's there for. That's what we're doing for ourselves. The thing that we always say is that saving is an action, not an amount, right? The act of saving is what matters, not how much money is in your account. Because when you do have to dip into your savings, which we all have to do at some point, because that's what it's there for, again, it's not there to be some stagnant number over there. But when we have to dip into our savings, um, when that happens, because we have the habit of saving, it makes it easier for us to go back to saving. It doesn't feel like a setback. It's just like, oh, there's like a blip in my habit. Let me go back and do that. What people often tend to do is they make this savings goal, this like they put it on this pedestal and they say, oh, this is the amount of money that I have to have in my account. And often what can happen when you have to dip into it is people just say, well, fuck it. I guess I blew it. Let me blow it all now. Right.
Mm.
Go into that spiral of, hey, I broke this goal and just, let me throw it all away. And a huge part of that has to do again with our nervous system, right? And going back to this savings was like my sense of safety, and the fact that this number was at this number was my sense of safety. So now that that's gone, I'm just going to, a lot of us will self-sabotage, myself included, And I
Mhm.
think thinking about things in that light of the ebbs and flows, and understanding that savings is supposed to carry you through those ebbs and flows, is you taking care of yourself, right? Is you taking care of yourself, is you taking care of your community, and really being able to navigate those ebbs and flows. Another thing that we like to say is that make your money resilient so you don't have to be. Let your savings be the resilient ones. You can sit down and rest while you're dealing with a crisis, right?
Ah, wow, Pam, so much. This is so intertwined with our connection to ourselves as people. I love how you do not separate this. A lot of times, which separates what you do from, to me, 90% of any financial advisors, they stick into this one room, right? I know you also took some great risks, which is also why I consider you an artist. You came from a stable, quote unquote, salary working for this, and you were able to make the leap. And of course, now Mama One, pardon that earlier, to be able to just go and trust. And a lot of the people you work with are freelancers. They are creatives that cannot necessarily predict, like, this is exactly how much I'm going to make this month, right? How do those of us who navigate with those things around creating our own schedules, build that relationship to it? Because I've been blessed to learn some great techniques from you guys of how to navigate that. And you yourself took the leap, right? You didn't just stay in that world. You got out of these salary things. So what insights can you give to the people who are working on the freelance schedule, or they might be stuck in this rigid thing that they know their heart wants them to get out, but sometimes we wait for those days that, like, hey, when I'm ready, then I'm gonna leave.
I
But sometimes you got to
know.
make those leaps of faith, just like you said with the savings. And that was such a great analogy of savings. So talk to us about freelance and, making that leap and how you can trust in that process, because, we're not going to get thrown out. A lot of times I think, how am I going to do this? But something tends to work out, but you got to get out there and do
Mm,
it. So I know
it's
you
so
have some
true.
great insights in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because so it's been almost 10 years. Brunch and Budget's been around for 9 years, I think. So I quit my job at the end of 2014. And I did it accidentally. So I had a really great situation. Like you're talking about the full-time salary. I was being paid a full-time salary plus benefits. And it was to help out my boss who was transitioning to a new place. And he said, I know you're working on Brunch and Budget, so I'm going to pay you a full-time salary, but you only have to work 3 days a week. And you can do whatever you want the other days, right? And so for a long time, I was like, okay, this is just what I'm going to do, right? This is just what I'm going to do. Um, and just always do Brunch and Budget on the side. And there was a point, maybe a year in, where I said to myself, I don't think I can keep doing both anymore. My
Mm,
energy was being split and I was doing a bad job on both sides. And I really had to
mm,
acknowledge that and say, okay, like I can't keep doing both. So am I staying in wealth management at this job that's stable, or am I going to do Brunch and Budget? And I was working with a business coach at the time. I was trading financial planning for business coaching, which was awesome. And he told me to do cash flow projections. And now I'm an evangelist of cash flow projections, because what it is it's a spreadsheet, and I can actually share a link to it when you post this, and I'll put it in the comments.
mhm. Thank you.
But it is a spreadsheet that breaks out month over month what you think your income is going to be over the next year. So it has January through December, and then every single month. What he told me to do was fill in what I thought my income was going to be for the rest of the year. And so I pulled up the cash flow projections. I pulled up a template, and I called him and I was like, but I've never done this by myself before. Like, I've worked a full-time job. How am I going to predict like what's going to happen, right? And he literally was just like, just make it up. Just see what happens. It's just a spreadsheet. Like it's not like it's set in stone, anything like that, right? It's really just like you being able to see all the numbers down so you can actually think creatively about how you can make this money, right? And I think that's the thing that a lot of freelancers are scared of, is actually writing the numbers down, especially a lot of artists, a lot of creatives. A lot of us think like, oh, numbers, I'm not good at numbers, I'm bad at numbers. I'm not good at numbers, and I'm a financial planner. You don't have to be good at numbers. That's what Excel and calculators are for. You don't have to be good at numbers. I hate math. I hate math. But I love my spreadsheets because my spreadsheets do the work for me, right? When you find the right spreadsheet, when you can figure out how to use those formulas, they do the work for you and they tell you a story. And what my cash flow projections told me when I finally did them, and I literally just made up some numbers and made up some ideas for what I thought my streams of income could be, right? And I did it, and I came to him when I finished them and I said, I think I can quit my job. And it was like, it took a moment to sink in. I wasn't sure when it was going to happen, but the numbers worked. I was going to break even in the first year if all of this came true, right? And so instead of quitting my job, I booked a month-long trip to Asia. I wanted to run a half marathon through Angkor Wat in Cambodia. And then I wanted to visit my family in the Philippines. And I was like, whatever, my job is flexible, blah, blah, whatever, right? And so I came to my boss and I told him, I was like, hey, I booked this like month-long trip to Asia. I'm giving you a heads up now. And he said, well, how are you going to work while you're there? And I took a moment and I said, I guess I'm quitting. And that's how I quit my, because I was like, what do you mean, how am I going to work? I'm telling you, I'm going on vacation. Like, I'm not going to work while I'm on vacation. So that's when I quit. And I had done the cash flow projections already. So I was like, oh, I can do this. I can just quit. I can make this work, right? And so that's the thing. I think that's the advice that I have for freelancers or people who are trying to make the leap, is you got to look at the numbers. You got to face them, and you got to figure out where the creativity is in them for you, right? That's the biggest thing. For me, cash flow projections gave me the ability to see what the possibility was. It showed me like, hey, if I just do a little bit of here on this gig and I take this gig and I make this partnership and I like get this many clients a month, then it could happen. Right. And that's not what ended up happening that first year, because of course not, right? Cash flow projections don't come true, but they give you a way to create action steps for yourself so you can say, oh, I'm working towards this thing. How I get there doesn't matter, right? The fact that I named it, put it on paper, and said, this is where I want to go, gave me the direction to go there.
Pam, you are a certified genius in my book. This is I knew this was going to be something really special, and that is really, I just always want to reiterate some of the things that you said, that it is very artistic, your process. You imagine it just like you think of a concept of a song, you write it down. Sometimes the lyrics change and the melody changes, but what you said was huge. You didn't know what exactly was going to happen, but it sparked something within your being. And then when you heard your former boss say, how are you going to do this on vacation? You're like, I'm out. And you did it with, you said that with your chest, and you're like, and what I loved is it wasn't a fairy tale where you're like, oh, it all came true as the way I wrote it. You're like, it didn't. It just was a tool to get you from one step to the next, right? I want to speak on two words that I know you're going to have a deep relationship with: scarcity and abundance, right? A lot of times we're talked about these scarcity mindsets, and abundance is not necessarily something being acquired, but the actual natural state of being. Our body is constantly producing cells. We are breathing and flowing. These are things. This is not necessarily about, oh, I'm going to acquire abundance. These are states of being. So, scarcity and abundance, just, I'm just going to put those two on the table and allow you to
Yeah.
let your being take those and express whatever comes to your heart space with from that. And let us know about what those words mean to you and how these things are showing up, not only in finance but in our lives, and how they affect us.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing I want to start with is kind of going back to my cash flow projections thing and why I'm such a big evangelist of it, is because, you know, the thing that you said about imagining sparked this thought of like, a lot of us will try to dream and stop ourselves because we don't know how that could possibly happen, right? You like dream this big dream and you're like, oh, I really want this. And if I could, when someone asks you what you want, if money was no object, like what would you be doing? All of this stuff. And I think that for me, what scarcity can feel like is you dreaming this dream and then coming back down to earth and feeling like you have no idea how to get there.
Wow.
You know, you think this big thing, and a lot of us can live in a place where if we just keep dreaming the biggest dream, it feels impossible every time. And so we just stay small, you know? And I feel like that's what scarcity feels like, is we live in this, we purposely live in this place of like, I'm going to dream the biggest dream and not figure out what the small steps are to get to that, right? And I think that spreadsheets feel like coming back down to earth, budgets, you know, acknowledging like the system is really hard. There's a lot of systemic things that are creating a false sense of scarcity that our nervous system is feeling, right? You know, there was a $14 trillion wealth transfer during the pandemic alone. $14 trillion just went to the 1%. If that's not fucking scarcity within capitalism, of course your nervous system is feeling like that. How can you get out of this situation, right? And I think acknowledging that aspect of it, acknowledging the fact that the system wants you to feel like there's not enough, is the first step, right? When you dream that big dream and you're like, shit, I don't even know where to start. And so I'm just going to try to live there and then live my life small over here. And maybe one day I'll like hit the jackpot, or someone will just like, you know, there's this idea of like some huge, like one day, like some benefactor will come and just decide that they're going to pluck me out of obscurity. Right. And I think that's the thing, especially with a lot of artists and creatives, where you're taught you either have to be a starving artist or a successful artist. And there's this frustrating tension that the system tells you, where they say, oh, you're an artist, so why should you care about the money? Isn't it about the art? But are you an artist if you don't make money off your art? How do you win? How do you win, right? How do you have a sense of abundance when people are telling you like, don't care about the money? Oh, but if you don't make any money, then you're not an artist, right? And so I think that acknowledging that the system is again designed to make it feel like that there's a sense of scarcity is huge.
Mm.
Um, and it can trap us in a place and put us in a place where, and I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there many times, right? Especially as a business owner, especially as someone who has had to deal with the ebbs and flows of like things that are outside of my control, right? And so how do you get to a place where even though your bank account isn't where you want it to be, even though your bank account is telling you like, I think one of the biggest disservices that money has done for us and capitalism has done for us is to tie our self-worth to our net worth. And one of the other things that we say all the time is that your net worth does not equal your self-worth.
Mm.
And so that, again, when we go back to numbers, the money in your bank account is just a number. It's going to tell you what resources you have access to in this moment, but it's not going to tell you the future, right? It doesn't tell you what the possibilities are. It doesn't tell you what can happen, you know? And I love what you said about abundance is already in us. We're generating cells all the time, constantly. We're generating ideas. We have creativity within us that sometimes gets blocked by the system. But how do we access that on a regular basis, you know? And I think when it comes to abundance, thinking outside of money, like what resources do you have? What community do you have? What other types of wealth do you have? And how can you access that, I think is really critical for all of us collectively to be able to like pull ourselves out of these like scarcity mindsets that we find ourselves in, and these scarcity systems that we find ourselves in. Let me be clear, right? These systems are designed for us to make us feel like we don't have enough.
Wow, Pam. I had to drop the sparkles. The gems are dropping on us right here. This is serious love-based business. You know why I've always referred people like Beth or anybody when I see myself and I was like, go talk to Brunch and Budget. I'm just like, go hit them up, go hit them up. You are doing something, and I'm just gonna say, to my knowledge, y'all are one of one on this, right? The way that you are speaking about the human condition, spirituality, systems of oppression. You are someone dealing with finances, but you are very real about capitalism without praising it and understanding. You understand burnout, you understand scarcity mindset, which is usually left out, right? I remember when I first was like, okay, I'm gonna be an artist. I took a more traditional, like, and they just gave me start a 401k, do this or this, invest in them. It was just very like not helpful, but also fear-based. Like, you better save this, you better do this. And there was no acknowledgement. There was no room for me. So if this was the information, I was outside of the information. Whereas everything Brunch and Budget does, I've always felt included. I've always felt that, oh, wow, this is part of my existence and my life. And I'm able to build that relationship to it. I'm very curious on how you were able, I know your life experience taught you that, but how you were able just to navigate this world beyond the capitalistic structures and these systems of oppression, but still keep it a buck and keep it real, right? It's a delicate balance, right? Because you're not ignoring this I gotta take care of food, clothing, shelter mentality, but you're also like, these systems are rooted in falsehood, and the answer isn't to just become this money hungry capitalist thing, which also I think instills a lot of that scarcity. So please tell us how you're able to recognize what these structures are, but also navigate beyond them, because I think that's what really separates you from, once again, in my opinion, anyone else doing this kind of work.
Yeah, thank you. I love this question because it is a good segue into uh, why I started doing this work. I actually have a literature degree. I graduated with a literature degree.
Mm.
I was not interested in finance at all, at all, at all. I thought I was gonna. I was a writer in high school, and my English teacher encouraged me to like go to school for writing and go to school for like literature and things like that. So I went in and majored in literature, and while I was looking for a summer job, I was on Craigslist way back in the day, y'all.
Yeah,
Let me
the
date myself
Craigslist
right
gig.
now.
Let's go, let's
Uh,
go.
I found a random summer job posting on Craigslist for this thing called the Money Camp, right? And I interviewed with the lady, and she was running these financial literacy camps for kids and teens. And I was like, this sounds fun. Sure, let me do it. And after that first summer, like my whole mind was blown. And there was this whole other world that I was exposed to that I didn't think was for me, right? Because I'm a literature major. I read books. I didn't like math. I didn't do any of that stuff. And learning about money and finance and having to teach it to kids was the thing that like changed me. And I did that for 3 more summers. I graduated college. Um, and I said, you know what? I think I want to learn more about this and learn more about this world so that I can go back and teach kids. Because I feel like I hit a ceiling or a plateau at the camp because there wasn't any continuing education. So I was like, let me just get a job in this industry and see what it's like, right? I
Mm.
started in wealth management in 2008. I front row seat to the Great Recession. And I really saw like how wealthy people lived and talked about money and all of these incredible loopholes that were only available to them when it came to saving money on taxes, when it came to the types of investments they had access to, when it came to the type of like support and admin and like, like one of the things the salespeople would tell prospects is, we'll do everything except for walk your dog. I was like filling out paperwork and like doing admin stuff for financial planning clients, right? And so I saw this world and I saw how much was basically like handed to someone when they were wealthy. And I was like, oh, they're not any smarter than us.
Mm.
They're not any
Mm.
smarter than me. They just have money so they can pay other people to do the shit for them.
Mm.
That's it. That's it. That's all they got. I remember I was researching the history of paperwork, and it's racist. Surprise, surprise. Of course, of
Yeah,
course. Um,
hit 'em.
but
Got the
I was
bars.
researching the history of paperwork, and I one thing that I found was paperwork used to be something that businesses filled out for you. And government admin, they used to hire people to help fill out paperwork because it was a way to actually build connection and relationship with the people who are on the other side of it, plus a way to streamline operations on the back end, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big shift of who was filling out paperwork happened in the 20th century when the United States rolled out huge social services programs. And so instead of hiring people to help fill out paperwork to get access to these social benefits, they said, no, you fill out the paperwork. And if you don't fill out the paperwork right, you don't get these benefits. You don't get welfare. You don't get social, you don't get these social services. You don't get public housing unless you fill out the paperwork right. Yeah. And who is affected most by not being able to fill out paperwork? People of color, immigrants, people who English isn't their first language, right?
Mm.
Who is affected most by, oh, you forgot to check a box, denied, right?
Oh.
And we shared this in a workshop, and someone asked in the comments, they were like, so do rich people, are they just good at filling out paperwork? And I was like, no, I was literally hired for 8 hours a day to fill out paperwork for rich people. That was my first job in wealth management, was just filling out paperwork for rich people. Yeah.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
saw this. I saw this firsthand. I eventually worked my way up to becoming like a financial planning associate, getting all my designations. And I feel like that I came into this system like sideways, right? Because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
planning to stay. I
Mm-hmm.
was just planning to learn and like get paid for it. And I came into the system sideways, and I came from it through that critical thinking lens they teach you in literature, right? Of
Mm.
like, what's actually going on here? Thanks, Lizzie. I just thought that's beyond crazy.
Yeah.
Listen, I will send you the links. It's nuts. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing the thing that I really saw was just like, how can I bring this type of service? How can I bring this information? How can I bring these insights to the people who really need it? And that's why Brunch and Budget started. And that's, I feel like being able to look at it through this lens of like, I don't care about finance. I never was interested in finance, but I was interested in helping people, and I was interested in understanding how things really worked. And finance was my avenue to do it, but I feel like I do it through this critical lens of like, I don't trust the system, but I trust people.
Pam, Pam, wait. I'm throwing up some more. I gotta throw up another filter. Like we throwing up the heart filters again. Pam, I don't know. We are blessed. We got this recorded. Thanks so much. And I didn't even know this about you. So it deeply is so perfect that this is an Artivist talk, because you are someone, literature you came in. You wanted to help youth, right? Which is like so much the reason people pick up an instrument or start writing songs or poetry or a play, right? You also came in and you made discoveries, and your brain literally was rewired, because we had these assumptions that were like, oh, they're good at this, and you're like, nah, they just know paperwork. And the first thing you did in the finance world was to get nice with understanding this. Then you saw that there were loopholes that certain people had awareness and access to that others didn't. You made a self-discovery when you left your position to say, my goal is to be of service, which to me fully connects to the divine essence of abundance. You also had to take a leap of faith without knowing. You also took, the puzzle pieces are coming together here. You looked at your projection sheet. You knew it was possible, but even though it didn't go exactly the way you thought it would go, you got enough to get in there. Once you got in there, you've had to constantly readjust, re-educate, and reevaluate every way from your assessment systems to studying the mind and psychology. You jumped into a bottomless pit, Pam, and this is huge, and this is huge, and this is why I say you do it from a very, very artistic way. I do want to, because you got so much gems, we're going to make sure in the last 10 minutes we can make sure to have people get in touch with you, because guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg with how deep Brunch and Budget goes with this information. I thank you for sharing this off the strength, because this in itself has provided so much value, right? I do want to also allow you to kind of educate us or even just inform us on how is this affected now. I know you talked about '08, you saw the crash, you saw there's certain patterns in this that come and go. We spoke briefly on the pandemic where things change and shift up, and now we're in 2024. The year is almost creeping to that, we're a quarter way done with the year. It's insane. How do you see what has stood true from the beginning of your career and path, and what are some things that are just like new and discovery? Because I know there's certain things that last the test of time. You spoke on investments a little bit, and then what are some things that are like constantly in flux, or new things that have appeared within this particular era of our existence within this whole spectrum? So please talk to us about the new and the old and how
Yeah.
they are dancing together in this organized chaos that is life,
It's so true. Um, in reflecting back, and I've thought about this a lot, especially during the pandemic, and reflecting back to the Great Recession. I was like 22 years old, right? So I had no stakes. I was just like a spectator. I was watching, being like, okay, let's see. Oh, Lehman Brothers went down. Oh no. Like, oh, you gotta talk to your rich clients. Their portfolio went down to 4 million instead of 8 million. So sad, right? I was in the, I was a spectator to all of this. When I say I had no stakes, I meant I had no money,
Mhm,
right? I had no
mhm,
plan in the game. It's been like 15 years. It's been 15
mhm,
years. Like you said, I have a kid, I own a home, I have a business, I have employees. Um,
mhm,
the stakes feel higher, and a lot of things that were a result of the Great Recession were things like the stock market having the longest bull market in history. And what that means is that the stock market continued to go up in value for like 11 years straight. And usually stock market cycles go up and down in 5 to 7 year cycles. So this was unprecedented, right? We saw an unprecedented amount of wealth being built. We saw an unprecedented amount of new investors like getting into the market and only seeing the stock market go up. So there's that side of it. We also saw interest rates hit historical lows, right? We saw inflation be at historical lows. And so over the last like 10 to 15 years, we saw this like financial abundance in the market, in venture capital, in new businesses being built. And I think what ended up happening as we see how this pandemic has played out, to be honest, is we all got more fucked over.
mhm.
I'm going to be really honest, right? Because what ended up happening with the stock market is still today, like 1 out of 2 people are not invested in the stock market. When you are invested in the stock market, you are invested in publicly traded companies that have probably done direct harm to you and your family,
Mm,
right? And not to say to not invest, because we have our Roth IRAs and our 401ks, and that's, part of the system that I have to say this out loud, but I also have them, right? I have to acknowledge like
mhm.
participating in that harm while I'm trying to take care of my family, right? Um, and I think that because there was so much of like financial, like money flowing, that wealthy people got away with a lot more stuff. And I wasn't paying attention to it because, you know, I was like running a business, right? And I don't know if I wasn't paying attention to it so much as like hindsight is 2020. You
Mm,
know, for now you can even see the difference between the government action during the pandemic, right? The stimulus checks, PPP loans, EIDL, unemployment, increasing unemployment benefits, all of those things, which pale in comparison, of course, to the corporate like tax breaks that people got and the
yeah.
corporate bailout that people got during the pandemic. But they did acknowledge that like small businesses and people needed money. And you see us coming out of this pandemic and people just going about as if it's business as usual, but like the system is more broken than ever. And so I don't know, to be honest, like what that's going to look like. What I do know is over the last several years during the pandemic times, the reason why we wanted to focus on people understanding their relationship with money in a deeper way and understanding their money trauma is because we felt like that was the missing link between personal finance and the racial wealth divide, and you being able to reconcile the two. Because there's big stats around the racial wealth divide, there's big personal finance, there's a system that feels like we don't have control over it. And then there's us and our nervous system and our ability to like navigate the world in a way that feels authentic and true to ourselves, you know? And I think that when we can understand how to regulate our bodies and how to co-regulate with each other and how to start relying on each other and shed a lot of the individualism and the hyper individualism that the American dream has been made up of, right? And really acknowledge that like we really need collectivism, we really need community, and we also really need to understand how to be, and I especially becoming a mom, like really understand how we might need to reparent ourselves, you know, how we might need to say like, oh, I'm activated right now, which means I need to step away, right? I'm feeling activated right now, which means that I need to put this bill down, or I need to stop doing my taxes for a second so that I can collect myself, and give ourselves permission to not be machines. I think that is the true connection between like getting your personal finances together and reconciling the realities of the racial wealth divide, you know? And so that's why I've spent a lot of time really looking inward and learning about these kinds of things and talking to clients about it, because that's a true evolution, right? And that's really the beginning of financial liberation, is liberating yourself from feeling like this system is the end all be all and you just have to be a part of it.
Bars, Pam, you've done it again. I'm throwing the fist because you're hitting them with so much nuggets. Wow, Pam. Wow, this went by like greased lightning. I cannot believe how much I have learned from this. I want to thank everybody who's in here. We got a couple more minutes, so if you guys have a question, please hit that question bubble mark and then ask Pam a question as we get ready to wrap up in this final 10 minutes. Pam, I do want to hold space for you to really just let people know a little bit more about what Brunch and Budget has going on, how they can contact you. Of course, we're going to take this in there. You can respond to Liz with anything you want us to put in the YouTube description. We're going to put this up on YouTube so people can access this 100% pro bono in case, you know, they want to get some glimpses into Brunch and Budget with along with any links that you mentioned. We'll do it. And then, of course, we'll tag Brunch and Budget in this live so that people can go to your link tree and get the further information, because this is serious. This is necessary. And I want to thank you for taking a holistic approach. But please take a moment to let us know what's coming up for Brunch and Budget and yourself, where people can get in contact with you. And then I'm going to bring a little music to bring us home. But wow, Pam, thank you for just seeing and looking at this from a deep level and knowing that. I want to recap once again, our nervous systems are deeply involved. These are constantly evolving relationships. Pam has been a professional in this field as both full-time and a freelancer and working for other folks. And she continuously has to re-educate herself, reassess, and check in with the number one thing, herself and her body. She has had to pivot and adjust, whether through financial crises, whether through becoming a homeowner, getting employees in her business. The journey is ongoing, y'all. So please know that no matter where you are on this, it's there. But also know that the power is within you. When she worked with those higher ups, those multimillionaire folks, she saw a lot of the gems that she is sharing with you and shared with you right now for no money. So she is continually giving to her community and sharing these resources. And this conversation is worth its weight in gold. So thank you, Pam. Let us know where they could find out about you and Brunch and Budget, what's coming up for you guys on the calendar. And I'll wrap it up with a little bit of music.
Yeah,
So thank you so
I
much. This was
love
amazing.
it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your super insightful questions. There are so many things I feel like I share that I don't usually share. And I was like, oh, hold on, let me share this story and let me share this thing that I remember and all of that stuff. So thank you for that.
And we got this documented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm excited to share. So Dialect and I have a little thing called Get Shameless, like Get Shameless about money. And so if you go to getshameless.com, we are having a Get Shameless class on April 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And that is truly like racial wealth divide, interpersonal neurobiology, and personal finance, and how they all go together. It's an hour with 15 minutes of Q&A afterwards. And that leads into our Sea Change program. So our Sea Change program, we are so excited about. We spent the last year beta testing the program with 14 artists of color. Sea Change has been completely revamped. And one of the things that we did with these 14 artists of color is we had a monthly meeting where we helped them understand the interpersonal neurobiology connections between their personal finances and really how to connect it to their everyday lives and understand
Mhm.
how it really connects to money and how they can go through and move through. And so the new Sea Change program, which is opening on June 3rd,
Mm.
closing on July 3rd, is a 12-month program specifically for creators of color, so our artists and creative community, people of color who consider themselves artists. And like you said, I think everyone's an artist, right?
Facts. Facts.
Um, but you get in the Sea Change program not only those monthly meetings that integrate interpersonal neurobiology, the racial wealth divide, and personal finance, you also get a financial coach. You get our 5 stages to financial legacy, which is 90 action steps for you to take. And you get weekly coaching hours. We call them Get Shameless hours. You can get group coaching
Mm.
every single week to move your finances forward. And it's a year-long program because we know shit doesn't get fixed in 30 days. And
Wow.
so it's a year-long program where we have the pricing, so it's broken up so you can pay monthly or you can pay annually, to try to make it as accessible as possible for everyone. And we're so excited about the new version of this program because it really has taken all of the things I talked about today, all of our teachings, all of the things that we've learned over the last 15 plus years, and made it for creators of color and made it for the community that needs a community around their money. You know, the community that's often forgotten about in finance conversations, where people don't want to acknowledge, like, yes, not only do creatives need living wages, need access to healthcare, need access to financial resources, need access to retirement accounts, but they are the reason why life is worth living. Creativity, art,
Woo.
like, we got through the pandemic because of art. You know, not
Yes.
because of money. We got through the pandemic because of art, and we don't say that enough.
Wow, Pam, you are a true artivist and you have lived up to so much. Once again, guys, tap in with Brunch and Budget. This is the account Pam is speaking from now. Hit that link tree. We're going to have it in the description on our YouTube when it comes out, but just hit that link tree. All that information is going to be there. Remember, y'all, this is a holistic approach. We got a few minutes left. I'm going to do my best to recap this amazing
I can't
conversation
wait to
in
hear it.
2 minutes. Oh my God. And I'm going to start it how you close us off with art will get us through it. Art will get us through it. You just got to do it. It'll get us through it. It'll get us through it. Art will get us through it. Art will get us through it. You're an artist. You might not have knew it. It'll get you through it. It'll get you through it. Too. Imagine if you grew up without nothing. A lot of trauma starts to push all of your buttons. You don't think that what you're doing is worth anything. Trading your life 8 hours a day and hoping that the salary will bring you some pay, but it doesn't give you enough for the food, clothing, and shelter. And whether the weather gets colder and you need a sweater, you feel like you can't get it together, but you got to look inside because this word will tell you that you can divide, but we multiply by seeing our abundance. And you know, it's all resilient. And you see, we're at the function where we have to heal. We have to know that it is real because everything in your heart that you can really start to feel will allow you to reach the level you don't know. Just make a financial projection and really start to glow. And even if you don't reach your goal, you just really write it down and you can make something out of nothing, just like it's a sound. And that's the purpose of hip hop, the purpose of it all. And even if you rise, you know that will fall. It's the ebbs and the flows, it's the ups and the downs, it's the highs and the lows. Find your money personality, whether you're money monk or you're a boss with it. You could understand it. Just be authentic. The savings are there to be spent. It'll save you. But please don't let money ever enslave you. The capitalist system makes us all a victim. So find it on inside and knock it in your rhythm. And all you have to do is make a decision. You could break down this light like it was just a prism. And I know Pam's got to get going, but I know y'all could be ebbing and flowing. So just check it and don't really forget it. And check out Brunch and Budget. Really click the link and Pam can help you organize what you think. And now she got employees helping spread the word really faster, because love will get us through any disaster. So it's bigger than the money. It's bigger than the fiat. It's all right here. Abundance in case you forgot.
So good.
Pam, thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you to everybody who is here in the chat. Just want to pass the mic to you one more time for any final thoughts or statements before we close this amazing. I just went by like 2 minutes. I could talk to you forever.
I
Lizzie's
know.
throwing up fire.
Yeah.
Everybody's throwing up heart emojis in this. Pam, this was necessary. Please close us off with any final thoughts. And want to be mindful of your time and respect and allow you to do what you need to do with the rest of your day. But thank you for taking this power hour. I feel so uplifted. I feel like I can go and fly off. Thank you again. Yeah, this was really, really needed. It's what I needed to hear right when I needed to hear it. So,
oh, beautiful.
Wow.
I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I just want to remind you, how are you going to get shameless about money today? How are you going to get shameless about money today?
Thank y'all. Well, guys, you've heard it right here. This is Pam of Brunch and Budget. Please check out the link right in the profile she's speaking for. We will have this up on YouTube. I will put it in the Decipher group chat. Remember, hit us up if you want to be added to this. You can see our whole series of Artivist Talks. We are here with Blessed with number 17 with an amazing woman, an amazing powerhouse, and an amazing artivist. Pam, thank you for your time so much. I appreciate you. Send my big love to the Dialect and the family, and I will hopefully come and see you guys really soon in the analog, and let's catch up. But I'm glad we got to do this and reconnect, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to just be present with us and share so much amazing nuggets. I know I'm going to dig back into this, and let's share this with your community so they can understand this too. We'll make sure you get the link to it once we put it up on the YouTube as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Peace and love.